Yo, 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 what's happening, beautiful, beautiful people? My name is Dave Vito, and we are back again with another episode of Dead Religion. And I got the praying Cajun with me, Jerome Colbert. Say what's up to the people, man.
What's going on, good people? We're back again to share more love with you guys. And man, this conversation is just taking it to a new level. And I'm loving every part of it.
Yes, sir, yes, sir. And our special guest today, we got two of them. First one, if he had a bicycle, you know he'd be sitting on Dubs. It's Dubs Milton. What's going on, man?
Some Dubs. I'm doing great. Just rolling, I guess, you know.
Picture me rolling. Picture me rolling.
Yeah.
And this guy, man, every time that he's on stage, man, he upsets the cleaning crew because every time he's got the drip, you know who it is. It's Jeremy Baker. What's going on, man?
Thanks for having me, man. Thanks for having me. Oh, my gosh.
Oh, man, listen, so we've been actually talking about new G's versus OGs. This is part 3. First week we talked about what's the biggest issue that is impacting our youth today. Last week we talked about how parents can be part of the problem and also part of the solution. But today we're going to talk about something that might slap some mamas and some daddies in their face with their own hands. We're going to talk about social media and the impact that it has on our youth today. All right, so Pastor Jay, social media is big, right? I mean, we use it as adults. Churches use it, schools use it. It seems like there's a hashtag for everything nowadays. Mm-hmm. How has social media impacted our youth today, both positively and negatively?
Yeah, for some statistics, 13 to 18, the average teenager spends 9 hours a day on social media.
Wow.
9 hours. Look it up. It was in 2019. That's the latest statistic. So that's 2 years ago, right? Almost 3 years ago now. So 9 hours. The average adult, now I'll tell on myself, I'm about 6.5 hours a day on social media. Well, I would say media. When it comes to social media, that could be, apps, it could be Twitter, it could be Instagram, it could be Facebook, it could be YouTube, but the technology piece. And so if you think about a teenager, man, 9 hours a day, wow. I mean, you talk about influence, you talking about what are we watching, what are we listening to, and you know and I know, the voices you listen to, the things you watch, the things you read, the music you impart into yourself, it literally sends your course, it sends your life of that course, you know what I'm saying? Absolutely. So those things dictate your course. So, man, I think there's positives and I think there's negatives. I think we don't know, we haven't figured it out yet because it is just, technology is just changing like crazy. I think parents do need to be involved though when it comes to phone screen time, how much time we spend on that thing, are we allowing it at dinner? Are we allowing it before bed? Are we allowing it first thing in the morning? Like I've been challenging myself before I even, and I'm just telling on myself, before I even think about opening up an app, have I spent quality time with the Lord? Mm-hmm. Have I really spent intentional quality time with the Lord? Because I think by nature, right, human nature, we can just kind of shift into that, oh man, waking up, let me read a couple things, what's happening, what happened through the night, what happened in the morning, and then next thing you know, you're caught in the hype of scrolling. I don't know if that's happened to y'all.
Oh,
you
yeah,
know what I'm saying?
for sure.
You know what I'm saying? Maybe it's just me.
No,
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then, you know what I'm saying? You get caught.
You know what happens to me is I'll have to pick up my phone for something, but then I see that notification on Facebook and Instagram, and I go and I'll check the notification, and then I'm done, and then I completely forgot about what it was that I needed to go get on my phone to do that was actually important. So,
I'm the same way. It's like a double-edged sword for me because I work from my phone too.
Yep.
So I'm always constantly connected on my phone looking at emails, and in the meantime, when I'm not looking at emails, I'm on social media.
Letting that influence.
Yeah, so I don't think we figured it out yet. You know what I'm saying? I think there's some things that are like apps that can help you, that can notify you how much time you're spending, maybe take a break from it. They got these new technology things that are trying to pop up now, but I think with parents, you got to be on it with social media. Like my son, 13, he doesn't have Instagram, he doesn't have Facebook, he doesn't have TikTok. I just don't. I think all that's going to come. I don't think you need it at 13.
Yeah.
I don't think you need to try to figure out what's going on, what's the latest. Well, Dad, so and so's got it. Well, Dad, this. I get it, son. I understand the heart and what you're trying to say, but listen, we're not like so and so. We got our own mix. We got our own thing that we're doing, and so I think to answer your question, really. It's a loaded question because I don't know anybody has the true answer to that question.
Yeah.
You know, I think we can do some things to help fix maybe the problem. I think there's a benefit of it. Man, we can preach the gospel from it.
Yeah.
We can use it as a tool to encourage people, to motivate people, to inspire people. I think we can use it to educate people, but I also think it can suck valuable time from our life.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Key opportunities to make a memory, but you missed it because you got caught up on it.
Yeah, yeah, that's so good, so good. Dub, I remember when we kind of engaged in this conversation the first time, you asked me a question, you said, who has the biggest youth ministry out right now? And I'm over here thinking of all these churches like, man, is it Hillsong? Is it, who is it? Is it Elevate? Like, who is it, right? And you said it was Travis Scott. And that just blew me away because it was so true in that regard in terms of that influence. So now you see everybody's, Travis Scott put out anything, people jumping online, you know what I'm saying, taking pictures, hashtagging it. How does that contribute in terms of social media and its impact on the youth?
I think the world has used it to influence the youth, and by parents allowing their kids to get on those things at such a young age, like he's saying, like a 13-year-old, the 10 to 13, they're searching for who to follow, looking up to someone. And I think at that age, if you give them access to that, like you're saying, if you're spending 9 hours plus on something like that, that's what's influencing them. That's what they're looking up to, and then it becomes about likes and who's popular and who's not. And so they're getting fed from social media instead of who to follow in their house and the foundation and the relationships. So, like he's saying, is anyone figured it out? No, but there are apps, there are things you can do on your phone where you can literally set it to where once you hit X amount of hours or time or whatever that may be, it'll turn off. So for that day, you can't get on that. Yeah, you can put in a password or whatever and go, but at some point, it's you taking the intentionality of saying, okay, I'm going to limit myself and set up a time that, like, once I've hit this point, it'll turn off, and then I'll have access to it till tomorrow. Is that something we're all going to do? I don't know. Have I done it? No, but I mean, even me. I mean, I'm about 4.5 hours a day on social media involved in something. But like I said, it's taking the phone instead of having it in my pocket always, or always on me, or always near me. I mean, I know it's here with me now, but like when I'm at home, it sits on the counter. It's away from me, and I'll think, where did I put my phone? I'll have to use my thing to find it. And not that I just forget, but like, I'm so focused on the moment and spending time with them. And so positive for sure is that, you know, like he's saying, I mean, we can preach the gospel. There was a kid that goes to our youth that his, I guess if you will, a defining moment in his life was on a TikTok. One of the people he follows or whatever got on there and shared the gospel, and it impacted his life in that moment. And now he comes to youth, he's involved, he's plugged in. So, I mean, there are positives to it, but it's like, as you know, as followers of Christ and like who we are, we can look at that and go, okay, social media is bad, it's this, it's that, and steer away from it. But we could also look at it as like, okay, how can we take that and utilize that to reach this next generation instead of looking at it as a negative, is how can we make it a positive and help reach those people? But if we can just keep looking at it as it's bad, the world's changing, things are changing, and we can either look at it as a positive or a negative, as a glass half full or half empty. And if I've got that, well, it's half empty, it's a scarcity, we're going to run out, there's not enough. But if I look at it as half full, we're almost there. We can do better. We're going to fill it up. We're going to get to that next level. So it's changing that mindset of like, how can we utilize this to change where we're going and go to the next level.
That's awesome, man. I absolutely love that. You know, one of the things, I work in tech, right? And one of the things that I've known for a long time, but it wasn't really exposed until that Netflix documentary came out, is how these big tech companies take our data and our searches and the things that we're interested in, and then they sell it to other companies to just feed that and push that down our throats. What was your social media growing up, Jerome?
Yeah, so I mean, I'm not going to step too deep into this one because, like they both said, that we don't have really like the right balance and the answer for it. Because I can find myself like Pastor Jay going down a rabbit hole and spending like 8 hours a day into it. But I think one of the key things that they both mentioned is having those boundaries. For you having a 13-year-old and not allowing him to have exposure to some of what the world will throw at him to, make, his life go in different direction. I think that's really key. And then just having those apps that really allow the monitoring of what the kids are doing and the cutoff points that, you can help shape and create and, take some of that away from what they're exposed to is a big key. And I think you just got to figure out like removing those distractions in your life by not easily believing what the world is doing and really allowing like the things that you get inspired by being God driven. And again, like you're saying, there's a lot of inspiration that can happen on social media, but it's really like what the kids and the youth are feeding into to see it differently. So,
I think the biggest concern for me, I have girls, right? And so I always want them to find their self-worth in reality. I feel like there's so many kids nowadays, and even some adults, that do not live in the real world. They live in the digital world. And so one of the biggest dangers that I've seen with social media is that instead of having the popularity contest because you're a jock or because you're a cheerleader, now your popularity is based on how many likes and how many follows you have. And people are finding validation based off of a post that has to have an X amount of likes in order for it to validate them and say, oh, I'm worthy, oh, I'm well liked, oh, people want to be around me. And that's one of the things that scares me as a father, obviously, right? It's like, man, that's a dangerous and a slippery slope to actually be on. But I also I didn't grow up with social media, right? I didn't, that wasn't anything for me. So I would just dive into sports, right? That was my number one thing, was diving into sports. I mean, I could tell you facts about, the 90s of basketball, the 2000s of basketball. Like, that was my social media, right? How do y'all feel about this digital popularity contest? And then what was your social media growing up?
I mean, I would say this, to pause on that, to go what Jerome said, and I'll come right back. Jerome, I think you nailed something I think parents need to hear. Parents need to set the foundation and set the rules for their teenagers, not the teenagers setting the rules and the foundation for their parents. What happens is people don't understand, like, why doesn't Caden have social media? Well, because I'm the dad. You know what I'm saying? Like when my son was 16 and he's driving around and I'm telling my son at 16, I said, hey, if you turn off your notification where you're at, your car is mine. Like, I mean, I know that sounds strong, right? And that can be like, bro, you hard, you controlling. No, these are my kids, man. I'm responsible. At the end of the day, I'm responsible for somewhat as how they turned out as men in the world. I play a part in that. Now, ultimately, it's them and God, but Dad put some foundational things in place. I remember one time, long story short, he turned off his notification, and man, I did what I said that I had to do. I said, hey, man, I need your keys to your car. You ain't turned off your notification. He goes, well, I just, it wasn't working. I said, nah, bro, we ain't doing none of that. I told you the rules. And there's times that he'd tell me he would go to a friend's house, and I would actually get in the car, and I'd be about 6 cars behind him, following him to make sure he's going to a friend's house. It's just holding that line, man, making sure. And I think parents are afraid of that. It's like, man, why be afraid? You're the dad, you're the mom. Don't be afraid of that. You enforce that. You set the line. You know what I'm saying? Because teenagers are going to be teenagers. I think for me, to answer your question, but I just thought I'd piggyback on your thought there. I think sports was my thing. I think sports was my social media. I think, back in the day, there was no Instagram. Hey, follow me. Hey, hey, like that post. Hey, follow my YouTube channel. I got my podcast out. There was none of that, right, when I was growing up. So it was sports. It was relationships. It was friendships. It was like, hey, we're all meeting up. I mean, there weren't even cell phones. You know what I'm saying? I mean, we had pagers, you know what I'm saying? And you were cool if you had a pager. Oh, bro, we got to go to the payphone real quick. Someone's blowing me up. I don't remember this number. And then you had a little book and had all the numbers in there of who was calling you, so you could look that book up. And so that's real. I just dated myself big time. So, anyways, hey, we're going to movies. That was that deal. I think now with the social media, I just think it is addicting. It's very, it can suck you in really quick. there was a kid in our youth a few years ago. He came to the altar for prayer, and one of his prayer requests is that people would like his YouTube channel. And I felt so bad, man. I was like your YouTube channel? I was like, this kid. But in his heart, man, it was a real prayer request. I at first I was like, bro, you clowning right now? You know what I'm saying? Because I wasn't in the mix at that level, but he was serious. He was praying that God would help him get his YouTube channel out and people would like his YouTube channel. And he was like literally in tears on it because he only had a few people following him. And so we had a few guys, hey, let's follow his YouTube channel. Let's get behind him, let's answer, let's be the hands and feet of Jesus to help answer his prayer. But that to me, it's like, man, kids, again, going back to validation. Hey, I need that acceptance. I need that love. I need someone to follow me. So social media is huge, man. I mean, it's huge.
Yeah. Doug, what about you, man?
I mean, again, growing up when I was a kid, I mean, it was more about sports, playing basketball, going and like just being around other kids. And I remember getting on our bikes, riding through the neighborhood. I mean, today I don't even think kids let parents let their kids outside because it's people are gonna get hurt, get abducted. I mean, it's just so much different. Than when I grew up. Like, I didn't even get a phone until I was 18.
Yep, same here.
I mean, I was going off to college, like, I was an adult, like we're talking. I mean, and so social media wasn't a thing. I mean, and it's just technology's advanced so fast. Like Jerome was saying, it's almost like I don't want to make a call on it because I don't know where it's going or what's going to happen, and I didn't have to deal with that. But like looking at it now, it's like seeing these kids, like he's saying, as far as like kids are just wanting to be accepted, and like to them it means everything. And I think that's where that's being the heart and being Jesus in those moments. And us, when kids come here, it's like we've got to be those people that like we could either look at it like, hey, you don't need that, but if that means so much to them, we've got to know how to help them walk through that and love them where they're at in order for them to ever let us in. And so, I mean, I don't know the answer. I don't know what's right, what's wrong. But if I take what the Bible tells me and how it tells me, like, parents take pride, like the parents are the pride of their children. Like how I raised them, it's pride and joy. It's like he's saying, keeping them from those things and like not letting it influence them. I could look and go, okay, I was the parent that like didn't, let them do whatever. But then where does their kid end up? Mm-hmm. Where if I'm intentional about what I allow them to see, and no matter what other people say or how they pick on them, make fun of them, if I've built that relationship, they're already open to me. They'll let me inside. They'll help me, allow me to guide them and lead them through that. And I mean, I have a 2-year-old. I don't know the answer, but I know if I'm intentional with my relationship with him, I won't ever have to worry about where he's at, what he's doing. I mean, he's a kid, he's going to do, but I'll know that like when he hits the bottom or whatever it is that he's going through or facing, I know he's going to turn to me because I've always been there. Mm-hmm. Something as simple, like, not to make it a long story. I know it's not about social media, but like he's 2, and one day he wanted to get the vacuum out of the closet to vacuum. He wanted to help. We weren't trying to vacuum, we weren't trying to do that. And I'm like, son, no, close the door, leave it alone. And then I realized, I'm getting on to him from wanting to serve and help. And like he was saying that, earlier, like I had to go and apologize. Like, you know what? I want to sit down and I'm going to say, I'm sorry, son. That was wrong on me. You wanted to help. You want to clean. Let's get the vacuum out. Let's clean the house because that's something you wanted to do. But something that simple, it could affect. Now it's like, well, I don't want to help anymore because like you've told me not to do that. Mm.
So I'm gonna equate my social media experience to this. So I'm gonna date myself a little bit too, Pastor Jay. But you remember back in the day, my mom used to tell me that I needed to be home before the street lights came on.
Yeah. Oh yeah, man.
So that was my social media, like playing out with the friends. But now, like what I talked about earlier about is just setting those boundaries with your kids. Mm-hmm. reducing that exposure that they have to the negative influence that happens. So that's what's for me.
I also want to touch on your point about parents and setting boundaries, because one of the things my parents used to always tell me, there's this phrase that Puerto Ricans just beat it down like it ain't no tomorrow, and they say, "Tell me who you hang with, and I'll tell you who you are."
Yep.
And so my mom and my dad's biggest concern were the friends that I was hanging out with, but they could see them. They could get a feel for them. Like they came by the house while I was over there. They could see their parents. Like that. Yeah. How do you now in this follow world, right, where you're on social media and you're following, this person and that person, you don't know who they are. You see their face or their default picture. You still have no idea what their background is like, what their lifestyle is like. How do parents prevent their kids from following the wrong people in a digital world?
Yeah, I would say, Dave, that's a great question. I think it goes back to parents holding their students accountable. I think accountability, everybody says they want accountability, but they want accountability on their terms. Yeah. That's not accountability. True. Accountability is when you are truly 100% submissive and under authority to say, hey, I trust you. Like we do phone checks in my house. You know what I'm saying? Like my 13-year-old, okay, bro, phone check, hand me your phone. He ain't freaking out. He ain't tripping. He ain't, oh my gosh, give me 5 minutes. Give me, I got to delete some stuff. No, it's like, let me see your phone. And I'll go right to the search. Because what the rules in my house, if I'm paying the cell phone bill, you don't delete your browser. You don't delete it. We have no secrets. Like my phone, there's no secrets. Like my staff, here at the church, most of the people have access to my phone. They can pull up emails, they can send stuff, they can, Dropbox stuff, link stuff. I have no secrets because I have to lead the way as a leader. So, hey, son, y'all can look at my phone. You can see my history. So it's not, say one thing and do another. Mm-hmm. It's lead by example. So I think having phone checks, I think some parents will freak out by that. Well, you don't know my son, you don't know my daughter. Again, it goes back to the beginning stages of foundation, right? Again, these are my parenting style, my thing. Okay, my son's 19, he's older. Hey, Josiah, I know I'm paying your phone bill. I know you're grown, but let me see your phone, man. You've been in good places. Everything's straight. Because again, if we talk about honesty here, anybody has access to almost anything on this little device. It's even on social media, man. Sometimes it's like, okay, wow, we're just letting that stuff fly right now. You know what I'm saying? And so it's like, okay, man, let me guard my heart right now, right? Because the Bible says in John 10:10, the thief comes to steal, kill, and destroy. We know he's a thief, and there's three things that he's coming to do. He's coming to steal from you, destroy you, and eventually kill you. That's the thing. And so we don't want this thing to rob us, destroy us, or kill us, right? Then the Bible says in 1 Corinthians chapter 16, verse 13, it says, be on guard. Okay, so we understand we got to be on guard against the enemy, the thief, right? Then it goes Ephesians chapter 6, verse 10, it says, put on the whole armor of God. Verse 11, put on the whole armor of God that you can withstand the enemy, that you can defeat the enemy. So again, it goes back to there's a lot, we can go a lot deeper. I'm just saying, this is where my mind goes to. It's like, okay, I'm not going to let this device beat me spiritually.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying? I'm not going to let this thing, social media, whatever, app beat me spiritually. I'm going to be stronger than this. It's not going to win my flesh. I can control my flesh. So I think helping your children, helping your spouse, your wife, your husband, whoever, just like, hey, babe, I ain't got no secrets. Here you go. Here's my phone. You know what I'm saying? Like, I see those TikToks. It's funny to me. The wife grabs the husband's phone, and the husband acts like he gets hurt, and the wife comes and he goes grabs his phone real quick. I was like, we're brainwashing people to hold secrets, to hide things. You know what I'm saying? There's
cool.
Exactly. Yeah. There's a underlining message being said without it being said. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So it's like now we have no true accountability. There's no. We could go off. I'm just saying.
I just had a flashback moment when you mentioned like your friends and then Pastor Jay's talking about monitoring his 13-year-old phone. My mom used to get on the line when we had a landline at home, and it was all about like monitoring what kind of friends we had. She would literally like listen on the other end of the whole conversation to know what was going on to direct us in the right direction. So funny.
Yeah. I mean, I think like what he's saying, it's the accountability. I think, again, my son doesn't have a phone, I'm not at that level, but like what he's saying, I mean, it makes total sense. If it's, as they're raised up and, and I don't know when I'll decide when he deserves to get a phone or whatever, but like everybody's going to be different and have their own interpretation, and every kid's different. We're all different. We're all unique. Unfortunately, some people can be trusted with something, some people can't. But again, I think it goes back to the foundations that you started when they were really young, and having that accountability of like, knowing that like, hey, I'm here for you, and hey, I'm gonna check this. I think the influence of like what social media does, of what's acceptable and what's okay to do, and how you can hide this, or like, there's just so much. Like you're saying, if you just get caught scrolling in that, you see it, and like, it's funny. But then it's like, wait, the kids are watching this and they're thinking like the Bible talks about like, not stumbling, like don't do things because it'll cause other people to stumble. And where that's at is like, you see it, well then now they do it in excess. Like they're going to go above and beyond because they think it's acceptable. They think it's okay because that's what other people are doing. And it's funny. It's accepted. And I'm not cool and I'm not accepted if I'm not doing it. If I don't have 2 or 3 girlfriends or whatever, like, I mean, there's like it's okay. That's what the world does. We're okay. But with those foundational pieces, people feel loved. People feel the acceptance. They know like, okay, that's not what we're going to do in this house. We're going to follow God, and we're going to live for God, and we're going to have a relationship with God, so that when those things come to tempt us and he comes to destroy, or even just the simplest distraction can lead us off another course. But if we can help to avoid those distractions and temptation, we can stay on the direction and the path that we're going. I mean, they don't depart from us.
Preaching hot dog.
Yeah.
Preaching.
Parents, I want you guys to know that it starts early. Right now, my kids, they have their own YouTube channels that they follow and that they like to watch. They don't even watch TV. Where we were growing up being, Saturday morning cartoons and watching Dragon Ball Z and stuff like that, right? Now it's like, these kids that, are making millions and millions of dollars, playing with their parents or doing things that you should be doing with your own kids, right? You got to start the monitoring early. You got to start setting boundaries from the jump. You can't just throw them something because you don't want to raise your kids or because you're too busy doing your own thing. You've got to be intentional about saying, hey, you know what? Yes, everything can be good or everything can be bad. It really is dependent on you, and you're the one that says how good or how bad something can be. Listen, we're going to wrap this thing up. I know we could sit here and talk about this for another hour if we had the opportunity to. Listen, guys, this is the last and final installment of New G's versus OGs. You do not want to miss next week, where we actually talk about how we can actually bridge the gap between these old school heads and these new school kids. At the end of the day, we are very grateful that you stay tuned. We want to hear from you. Please like and subscribe on YouTube. If you have not gone to our Instagram page, please visit it. It is Dead Religion Podcast. That's Jerome. I'm Dave Vito. Our special guest, Doug Melton, and Pastor Jay. We are out.